Danny from Sydney. Anyone use APIs in their work?
Yeah, has anyone written any code before?
Well,
A few people.
2 people? 2-ish?
It's on there. It's on there.
Right.
Oh, really?
I mean, we're gonna talk a little bit today just about add-ins. So we started on a bit of a journey a couple of years ago, writing some of our own, and there have been some things learnt, and some things that we're...
You just sucked it off.
Yeah, do it differently. But I think essentially coding, I mean, they're teaching coding in schools now. I think coding used to be quite a refined thing that hardly anyone did. But you'll find that more and more people actually, whether it's Excel formulas or people are doing a lot more things on computers, and so naturally when there's a problem, they'll look to code to solve it. Yeah, without overselling it or overstating it. I think it's definitely an area where things are developing.
I've seen a little game where it's to teach coding and you have to do something. Got that guy as well. You have to, it's like who knows D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. What someone else does, everyone goes, oh, he's it. I don't like it. It's like...
It is a very easy word.
Yeah.
Everyone here.
It's like, move forward to this door and you have to write the coding to make the character. And then you open the door and you write the coding to open the door, and it's just so... I had a quick look at it, it was quite cool actually.
I've got a friend who teaches IT in schools,
Yeah.
and that's what he's doing. So it's like Minecraft, you walk up to a little thing, and the way to get to anything, you have to plug it in.
What do you want to charge?
Appropriate coding.
It's probably good. So it's kind of like looking at the logic behind how to get from there to there.
Is that on YouTube? Where do you find it?
Might be. It's a program, or it's a mod for Minecraft, what he's using. But yeah, the idea is that he's using it.
Well, there's W3 Schools and Code Academy and lots of other websites and stuff that you can go onto now, and they're interactive, so as you write the code you can see the result straight away.
Yeah.
So you can test out different ideas and theories and you're getting immediate feedback.
And the way you learn, like this, so we're getting straight into it. But one of the most surprising things for me was the wealth of information that's online. So I'm a self-taught coder, and I know that's going to be a problem if I keep coding bigger things that really get more complicated. But essentially, 10 years ago, if you wanted to learn code, you go to a university. Okay, this is going to offend everyone, I'm sure, but you'd have a lecturer giving you one point of view, telling you one way to do it, and the way that he's been doing it for the last 20 years. Whereas now, you ask a question in Google, and on Stack Overflow, you'll have 4 or 5 industry experts arguing, discussing, pulling the problem apart. Like, it's a really rich environment to be learning stuff from. It'd be great if there was something like that on Revit. I haven't found already to be quite that good. But yeah, so there's information and really rich learnings out there to be had for people who are hungry.
There's quite a lot of stuff like that with Dynamo sites. You get with Dynamo, there's that type of guys there that spend their life fixing other people's problems.
Dynamo is almost like its own language, and we're talking at the moment, we're going to talk today just about some of the add-ins we've made with the old computer geek stuff. But Dynamo is kind of the equivalent, and it's like a step between heavy code, which is when everything's kind of crazy to read.
Yeah. It's kind of a list of Revit, conceptually.
Yeah, it's visual. Do this, do that, and then go this way or that way.
It's workflows.
Workflows, yeah. And it makes you think in terms of logic. So what am I actually doing to put this elevation on a sheet? And if I see that, I'm going to do that. If I see that, I'm going to do that. Basically, it expresses that on a workflow. So Dynamo is, really powerful. And it's also a skill set. Like back in the day, the bread and butter was drawing actually, and then some geeks started getting into AutoCAD and they started charging off, and then the industry moved that way. And then maybe went from there to BIM, I'm not sure. Although DWGs are BIM, I know. But then maybe the next move. But maybe the next move is going to be, I think, for things like Dynamo and looking at kind of the steps of logic or automating big parts of our workflow.
But there's a lot of Python underneath that as well. So a lot of the nodes, not only do you have the top level, but a lot of the specific stuff is Python, which then is more into the C sharps.
Which is
a
interesting.
way of thinking about iron code.
Yeah, okay, so it's going to talk about Revit Python shell. Who's heard of Revit Python shell?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so again, offending a whole lot more people, Python versus C++. So Revit is written in C++. All of the add-ins and examples you see online, C++.
C#.
And C#, yeah. And there's VB.
VB.NET.
But I mean, essentially,
The API is actually just .NET.
.NET, because I'm a little bit oblivious, but I look at C# code or C++ code or even Java, and it's really verbose. And if you do something wrong, the computer will tell you, oh, you need to put a squiggly bracket here. So you put the squiggly bracket there, and then it carries on normally. So I reckon that kind of thing is the computer's problem. Whereas Python, so 100 lines of code in those others, there's about 10 lines of code in Python. It's about 10%, sometimes less. Everything you read in Python is it's like a really streamlined language. And there are a lot of people who say, oh, you get the big problem, big coding things, and everything starts tripping over itself. But for that, all of the add-ins that we've made, we've used the Revit Python shell to write things in Python. And you can do interfaces, you can plug and play big libraries into it. So don't underestimate using Python to code kind of like heavier programs. Everyone says you can only code in Revit with intense languages, but it's not true.
I'd agree with
Yeah.
it. It's far more hackable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean that workflow that you say from Dynamo to Python, which talks to the heavy stuff, like we're basically entering it on the Python level. Yeah, and it's very exciting. It's really awesome what you can do when you start to read it like a set of instructions without any of the syntax and stuff. Computer problems. We were going to show you a couple of what we've done, but we're probably a bit light on time as well. Maybe we can show you on the computer here. But so we've started with, everybody uses Revit. Everyone's getting better at Revit. I think generally as an industry, everyone's getting better and better and better. So an expert Revit user now is quite different from what an expert Revit user was 5 years ago. And I think part of that, everybody's coming up with more and more bugbears in Revit, and then also more and more opportunities to streamline things. So generally, the instigator behind writing something in code is because either Revit doesn't do something well enough, or Revit does something and you have to manually do it every single time, and the logic is so straightforward, like putting the date on the beginning of a file name.
So would you be able then to create user interface within your Python shell?
Yes. So it has.
So you'll have a UI and basic.
And it's all written using .NET constructs, whatever. But you just access them through Revit.
So is there an IDE?
Sorry.
Is there an IDE?
What's an IDE?
Something that you create code with and design forms and that sort of thing?
I use Notepad.
No?
Python's that easy.
So how do you do a UI with Notepad?
I use Notepad++.
But to create a form and place a button in the text box, you're going to use, there's no form designer?
No form designer.
Right.
You can use that, you probably generate Python code online.
Not always. If you look at certain things like creating a spreadsheet control that extracts information from families and you place that into a grid view, you don't want to code that in without a designer.
But generally in Python, you just take it to the text editor, a level.
I'm obviously a geek because I actually did do that with the line by line.
But the other strategy is that Autodesk is really pushing hard now tools to drive the products around APIs and things like Python and Dynamo.
Outsourcing.
There are 3 products now in Autodesk product range that run Dynamo.
Yeah.
And you could argue there might be more coming.
Well, I've heard them talk about it.
And they can't keep up with the users' requests.
No.
So they're now saying to the developer community, hey, here's a whole toolbox, get in and write a better site design or write...
Because they're talking about Revit as a platform, which is completely different from being the end solution that's going to do everything for you. They say it's a platform, and we're going to expose the API, which means people can plug into that and drive Revit through code. It's like essentially what the API does, which is a very different shift. And it's far more open source Google than it is closed-minded Microsoft.
But isn't it just going around? I mean, if you look at AutoCAD in the really early days, exactly the same conceptual process happening with that, where it became an open platform, you could code it, you could adapt it with menus and lists and whatever else you want to use. Revit's doing the same trick again.
Yeah, it's getting back to that.
It's the same conceptual solution.
And it's important that companies don't think that they're the be and the all and the end all, because we're the ones who figure out what the problems are, and if we can write the solutions to them, we'll just learn from that. Yeah.
We just do it again.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, alright, okay, so I'll just quickly show you 3 of the add-ins that we've made. So the first one was a bugbear in Revit that we wanted to come up with a better solution for. So sheet tools. Has anyone tried to resize when you go make a new print set? Resize that list of sheets? And And the next question is, how many people have worked on a job with 500 sheets before and have had to use that little box to select 500 sheets? So this was kind of protest reaction to that. So trying to show you a lot more sheets at once and just make it real easy to see what print sets are selecting. This is all using, this is essentially just another skin. Everything's rebuilt, but it's just another skin for the print sets, print dialog. Another problem that it tries to solve is, you can only add one sheet at a time, so one revision to one sheet at a time, and there's probably 10 add-ins on the Autodesk Exchange that try to solve this one little problem. And so that's what that does. And then the opposite as well, after you've gone through and clouded a whole lot of revisions on all sorts of different sheets, you can click that guy there, and you make a print set with all affected sheets. So when people want an affected set. So all of these, of course, come from people who have been clouding things up for years and years and years, and to the contractors of the council, and got really frustrated having to go through and then they miss one. Like, all of that is a technical process that it's better that the computer do. So yeah, Sheet Tools is the first one. That's trying to patch something that Revit should do better. So it's working on a bug there. The other two is Exporter. So this here is in response, we've been working on some really complicated projects with big consultant teams, and every week you have to export 6 or 7 different file types, all with really accurate naming, all into certain folders, really consistently every single week. So RTV Tools, or RTV Exporter, is kind of the equivalent, but it's got heaps and heaps and heaps of options, whereas we found that there is hardly any options that we would use all the time. So it's like RTV Exporter. And you specify the routines, and then you can just run them locally all at once. And they do things like you can create folders with today's date. You can add the date to the beginning of the file name. You can add the revision to the end of the individual PDFs, which is another thing that you think that Revit would do automatically, and it will do soon. It will do, I'm sure.
Don't hold your breath.
Don't hold your breath. And then the next level we did was just this export well. And so in Weta workshops, when they do big renders, they have one computer that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm sure, and it's very, very quick. And all of the users just send jobs to that, and it queues them all up. So the person who's working on a workstation sends it and then carries on working. So that they're not interrupted by waiting for something to render, waiting for something to print or anything like that. We found that the bigger our jobs got, the more we were waiting for PDFs to spin up sheets, the more we were waiting for Revit files to get purged, and then we still had to rename them, copy, make a new folder, paste it in there, drag it to the right place, all of that process. So we managed to streamline a lot of that with Exporter, and then the well is something we did office-wide. So by clicking on the well, by sending it to the well, it just writes it to the server, and we have one computer in the office that's just listening to that queue, and as jobs get queued up there, the machine will start up a session of Revit and start running that. And so that means we were exporting like 30 things a day, and we found that the well was fantastic because you could just send everything there, people would carry on, and you could have more than one computer processing it as well. And so that there is another limitation of Revit, is that it's only single core, and it always has been, and it probably would require a complete rewrite. And so by running things through separate Revit sessions, you're kind of in a pretty clunky way using lots of different cores, depending on the RAM and all sorts of other things. But so Exporter, and that's an example of trying to solve a problem in our workflow. We're trying to automate a whole chunk of our workflow. Cool. And then the final one, this is probably the most, whenever anyone thinks about writing an add-in, they normally want to start here. Joinery elevator. So this here is going to create, actually I'll show you the model first. Here's a pretty straightforward house with a whole lot of windows in it. The process of elevating every one of those windows, tagging it, dimensioning it, putting on a sheet is really it's not problem solving, it's not really using your human brain, it's you know what you have to do for the next 3 days and you have to sit there and click the buttons until it happens. So yeah, we've made an add-in that goes click click. And so all of these UIs are made on Python using WinForms. So basically from Python it makes Windows programs. and so that's, I think it's got 40 to do. But it goes through, it creates an elevation of that window, dimensions it, tags it, and then places it on a sheet. Awesome fun. Awesome fun. Yeah.
500 windows, 30 minutes.
Yeah, so this is an example again of thinking of a whole lot of steps of what we do, and if we can learn how to say the code and
Do you sell that one?
I think people must really quiet think this is cool, they said, and place it on a sheet.
So I remember somebody showing us assemblies when they were first released, and somehow through some wizardry they said, look, I'm going to make an assembly, and I thought it placed it on a sheet, and I lived for a month of my life believing that had finally come to Revit, and I thought it was amazing, they must have set up the sheet before, I don't know how. But from that moment it's just kind of course that should happen. Every view you make that's worth something is going to go on a sheet. So anyway, it makes those.
Isn't this just really CAD automated? I mean,
In some ways, yeah.
I mean, I remember software, well, probably about early 90s, a thing called CarolMate.
Sorry, Carol
CarolMate. And
Mate?
it would do a set of consent drawings that was after the sketch plan. They could do the plan, elevation, sections, bracing schedules, the whole lot in 10 minutes.
These
Straight
two
out.
sheets, you
Automated.
just created.
Yep.
Ready to go.
Okay, I'm going to undo.
Easy, Brad. Easy.
Yeah. So those sheets are not there. Those sheets.
Contract here for you.
But all that to say something like this. Yeah, it is just documenting. So in terms of BIM, it's not really a BIM solution. It's something that we have to do, and we're going to have to do for the near future anyway, before we can just deliver people models. And so it's figuring out how can we spend more time working on a rich model and less time.
From the Dynamo camp, there are scripts set very close to that.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen something in Dynamo.
Are
Yeah.
those windows or are they curtain walls?
Oh, very perceptive. So we've gone to and fro a little bit, but at the moment we do everything out of curtain walls. I reckon, and this is another one of those big claims, I reckon curtain walls is the single best modelling tool in Revit. I think it's amazing what you can do with them. You can do framing elevations, all sorts of really impressive things. Yeah. So you can get all of the lengths and all that kind of stuff.
Kitchens with them.
Sorry?
Kitchens with them.
Kitchens?
Kitchens.
Kitchens.
Kitchen units.
You can do like timber framing plans. And then using this, instead of doing a window elevation, you can do a framing elevation. But yeah, so these are, what the next step for us is going to be doing internal room elevations. Because again, I've got 100 apartments, I want every kitchen elevator pleased. And again, it's a pretty mundane process. There's no design in that. It's just, drawing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very impressive.
Any questions?
Do you have long lunches, Callum?
Thinking like this. But I think maybe some of the take-homes from this, one is that code, I think, is emerging. It's becoming, you're teaching at schools, like it's definitely becoming more of something we're going to see in more and more people. And secondly, I remember in RTC a few years ago, we heard from a guy. He was a guru, he was an old fellow who just knew exactly how everything was going. It was really impressive. And he was presenting really cutting edge stuff. And he said halfway through, he said the secret to all of this is you identify people who are in your companies, because you might be good at one thing, but you might have some geeks that really want to charge at something. Yeah, identify who they are, and then give them some space, and give them some budget. I know it's expensive and it's R&D, but yeah, getting this kind of thing happening, there are people like this around.
Yeah, so my previous job I did Super Interiors, so we used Inventor.
Oh, yeah.
We were really lucky. He was an older chap. He was self-taught, but we were really lucky that he knew how to write code.
Yeah.
And he went through and he did basically a lot of what you did here with Revit, with Inventor. And really, on every single design office in the world needs a coder. And you could pretty much have them sitting there coding the whole time, as long as they're writing productivity tools to stop repetitive tasks for all of the other designers.
Yeah.
And they'll pay for themselves day in, day out.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer, like the amount of time that gets saved. They can spend a month writing an add-in that saves every single designer 10 minutes of every hour, you know?
Well, that was the next thing. And when you start getting into code as well, you can do anything. So we started running something that would start recording who was using things, how they were doing it. So suddenly the next thing we presented it in a Google Sheet. So this is something we present every few months to the team as well. And it lists through, you can have the competition who's winning, it puts a bit of a time to what everyone's doing, then it charts how it's doing over time. But yeah, it's an example of once you have, coding opens heaps of doors for Revit and for automating, but then also for a lot of the kind of
mean, the trick is, at the end of the day, is you can know how to write code, but you have to learn the APIs. And you have to have a basic understanding of the CAD application in a way to understand the APIs to then be able to develop stuff for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think knowing the CAD application, the biggest strength that brings to the table is you know the problems.
Yes.
You know, you've got your own bugbears,
Yeah.
and you know how the strengths of the CAD program and the weaknesses.
Yeah.
In terms of learning the APIs, all of these ones that I've just made, actually the API calls probably 5% of the code.
Yeah.
The other 95% is writing the user interface and making sure it's going to fail gracefully if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And Dynamo, you don't have to worry about a lot of that
Yeah.
because you're not worried about user interface. You're not kind of trying to collect data and present it back to people.
Yeah.
So Dynamo does shortcut that in a really elegant way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you find that the API is actually the easiest thing in the world because no one's going to press the wrong button, and you can, not the easiest thing in the world. The API you can find quite concise technical answers to. Writing a user interface and how you draw people's attention around it and things. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can find quirks and limitations in it, right? Just like there is in the actual product itself.
Yes, there are definitely some
Yeah.
things in the API that you think
And so
makes
those
it
are the
really
things
difficult.
that you kind of, yeah, so that's the trick, I reckon, is you can find, there's plenty of people out there that can write code, or there's more and more people that can write code, but it's finding somebody who knows the product as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I quite like the fact that you've put a little bit of time in this reporting aspect, which is cool. But then management see this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we need to do more of this. Okay.
Well, because to be honest, the bigger problem is not just Revit. It's Revit user group, and Revit's an amazing program, but it definitely fits a bigger picture. And yeah, code has a lot to offer the bigger picture as well as just thinking Revit.
And stuff that you know works and saves you time and is useful and efficient. How do you portray that to other people who aren't users, who don't speak the same language, who just...
Yeah.
This is the challenge though, because we're talking about getting a coder in an office now. The last talk was about trying to convince people that they don't need drawings. So it's sort of, we were talking 20 years ahead. Half an hour ago, now we're talking 40 years ahead.
Yeah.
It's the commercial challenges that are always...
Yeah.
It's the same.
Our coder is essentially non-chargeable. It saves a huge amount of money, but who can you change their time to? And that's always a sticker.
It's systems development, and it's workflow development. And someone earlier said, if you save an engineer or an architect 2 hours a day, and you multiply that by 600 people, and you take that per week, and you take that per month, then you've paid your own salary, for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's
So-
all about cash flow.
And the thing is, once you've proven that, once you've done that, then everybody's convinced in your company, the people paying your salary is convinced. Because they can actually see it happening and working. So, as soon as that happens, then you set a precedent. And I think all of the large engineering firms got programmers full-time. I mean, Oricon, ACOM, all those guys got a developer sitting
But
somewhere.
it's the first one that's the hard one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even though the boss could see that all these add-ins were doing amazing work, he still got grumpy in week 3 when one of his designers was sitting there writing code instead of producing drawings. It's like, come on, mate. You're saving you heaps of money.
Yeah, I mean, this was interesting because when we first started out, there was a concept. I certainly hadn't written anything in the past. We didn't have anything to show for it. We didn't know we'd be measuring it. We didn't know how successful everything was going to be. So it was very much, cool, here's one project. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the gutsy management is really important.
Yeah.
You need directors that actually understand that. And even on the CAD days, they're exactly the same process.
Yeah.
When you get AutoCAD and list and those types of things, what you're describing there happened 20 years ago, and the same cultural problems exist.
Well, there's structural designers in Auckland today who are talking about throwing out Revit and going back to AutoCAD because they can't get their heads around the shift in workflow and so we're still fighting those fights.
Yeah,
As an
that's
architect,
right.
we can tell, yeah.
But you start showing the automation that's possible, because that's been my bugbear with Revit, is that the automation hasn't been up to what it is, but it sounds like it is starting to come right. If you look at 2017.1, you now get a directory of folders for Dynamo, and you just run them out of the folder, like a palette.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you just put all your macros in there, just double click, and it runs without having to load it in and muck around with it.
Yeah.
Get the update.
Question. So those 3 or 4 plugins that you just showed us,
Yeah.
what was your first plugin that you wrote for Revit, and is it still in use?
Sheet Tools was the first one.
You started from scratch, but so how much of the functionality that's in that now is in there in the first build?
In the first build, it was print sets. Because look at this, you can't resize it. Why would you not resize it? You can resize some of the other ones which are just ridiculous and useless, but you cannot resize that one thing there. And so that was a good tester into, cool, what's this database look like?
Yeah.
And so regardless of any of the geometric information, it was just going to look and see if I can grab all the sheets, see if I can grab each sheet's name, each sheet's number, see how I can make a user interface that makes a list of that. So it very much was, yeah, grassroots.
Yeah, it created a kind of a window into what was possible for others to see and buy into the process, right?
Yeah, and I mean, look at the tools there. Oh, okay, no, I guess most of those do have an API function attached to them. So essentially, it's putting a box around it, making sure that it can't break, and saying, yep, call that with that information.
But I like it because it's quite raw. It's not kind of sophisticated. But it's really, really effective, and that's what I put down. It's just that it's kind of feels very usable
Trying to be
and
straightforward.
normalised. I think that's a real plus. I really think they've done great.
It's good fun.
Very good.
What's some good tools for resources for learning Python?
So the guy,
Revit Python shells?
yeah, the guy who writes it, I'm not sure if it's installed in here.
Python is huge. If you Google Python, there are thousands of applications in the world that use Python. So it's not an Autodesk thing.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of people have talked down on it, saying it's a kids program,
Yeah.
and yet somehow, yeah, everything keeps evolution. Well, everyone who's the purest coders, you get like coders that can be the most god complex people. Everything completely aligned. It's
Well,
Python.
if you're writing Revit, you'll be using C# or Plus. It's not designed for writing Revit itself, but for customising macros, 100-line hits. It's as effective as anything. It's kind of like, as I said, like the listers to AutoCAD, this thing's to Revit.
Yeah.
That's how I've always seen it.
Did you know that Autodesk had made Python one of the core APIs for Fusion 360?
Cool.
Yeah.
Good news.
Yeah. So that does Python, JavaScript, C# and C++, I think.
Yeah, nice.
And they're all for all of those languages being developed at the same time.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like Python, if you search it online, there's lots of different resources out there.
Yeah.
And it's a great one to ask, how do I do this in Python? And you have people comparing it to C#, here are the benefits, here are the problems, all of that kind of stuff. It's very cool. Yeah. Cool.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very
Sweet.
good.
Is there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Maybe I'll get through the meetup site, just a link to the Revit Python shell, which this is built off, and it really makes coding far more
Do
straightforward.
you have to compile any assemblies, or does the code just run scripts, Python scripts directly from?
So it's got a, that does wrap it in assembly,
Alright.
and the way you install an add-in in Revit is that you have to put a
And the application plugin folder?
yeah. But I mean, this can be put into an exe and somebody else can run it.
So what do you compile it with?
So the Revit Python shell, you write it, you save it, and then you can deploy it,
Okay.
and that bundles the necessary DLLs,
Oh, okay.
and they interpret the Python bits. But yeah, I mean, these are all, yeah, actually probably one of the detriments to Python is that it can't be encrypted or compressed, so it's pretty open stuff. So for a lot of people who want to be able to make things really, or make things closed,
But can you disassemble it?
not really. You
It's
can,
like C++, you won't be able to make anything out, would you?
you can make it. You can do some things, but essentially it relies on the fact that it's clearly written to run.
Okay.
Whereas C++, you could write the whole thing on a single line. And so it actually needs to be, white space means something in Python. Yeah. So yeah, the Python, you can reverse engineer Python quite easily. So that's one of
Dynamo nodes, you can just double click and open them up. If you get a node in Python node in Dynamo, you can open it up and look at it, can't you?
yeah. So
And
Python,
adjust it and change it.
yeah. So Dynamo is not afraid of being open. So that's why it
Yeah.
works well with Python. I think, yeah.
It's quite helpful. And there'll be a lot of knowledge about how to make it go.
Sweet. Thanks guys. Yeah, so you said I'll put something on Meetup about the Revit Python shell. How to find that.
I just talked to the IT manager, he'd left just before we started going, we should do this. But he's already fizzing about the stuff he wants to do. I said, saying an idea you have, practice this big, 240 people, God knows how many models there are. What if you could pull all that information from each individual model, depending how deep you want to go, but practice-wise, how big are the models, okay? What are their sizes, changes, how does it change over time? So you can say average size is this. You look at the models, kind of reports, model size, model size. Model size only gets the big. Maybe we should have a look at that. It was recently downloaded from revitcity.com or something. So that sort of stuff, you can just see all that information flew to a database. It's all there. Do with it what you want. You can put pictures and make graphs and stuff. But you can preempt when things are about to go horribly wrong. You can see it coming, you see the trends, you see what information is being used, what sort of thing is being loaded.
Very huge, like auditing, opening central models, open with audit, and saving and compressing, all of those things that you're supposed to do every week and that kind of thing. That's such a manual thing to do. The computer knows it should do it, So yeah, that's an example from an IT point of view.
Yeah.
Really easy to queue to the
Once on Saturday night, we're all in the party.
and it opens every single model that's been touched in the last week. So that's what that export well does as well. Because again, once you've got things in place, you think, right, how can we do that? And you just add a little bit each time. Yeah. And another thing is that, okay, this might not be the most relevant, probably close it.
No, go for it.
So these are routines. So that there is essentially 6 bits of information or maybe 12 bits of information. If that gets saved somewhere on the server, why can't somebody who doesn't have Revit installed on their machine just say, oh yeah, that queue that's in that list over there, just run it somewhere in the office, tell me when it's done. So like a director can open without knowing Revit, he can say, where's the progress routine? Boom, run that, pops into the proper folder and he can open it. And the machine over there is what opens up, runs the routine, alerts him when it's done. Yeah.
Go for it.
Good fun. Cool, thank you.
I'm jealous. Thanks, guys.